Hi friends, it's been a couple of weeks since I posted, so if you're new to the channel, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Rob, some people call me Big Rob, and this monstrosity is BigRobsVan. I have been converting this van for far too long. I think it should probably take a few months at most to convert a van on the level that I'm working on, and I have been working on this van for over a year. Part of that reason is because my interest levels seem to go up and down at different times, and other times it's because this summer it has been so incredibly hot. Now, I have taken the van out on a few adventures. I've taken it out on some day trips. As you can see, I still have my slide out bed. It is still working just fine. And on my last trip, I went out to the lake for a few days, and I actually added this table. Now, this table is not a permanent addition. I do plan to build a kind of storage area slash workspace over on this side of the van, but I had this spare Ikea table and I threw it in the back of the van because it is the perfect height. And actually, one thing I wanted to test was the depth of the table. How far do I want a work area or storage compartment to come out? And also, is this the right height? I do plan on doing work in my van. I do remote work. I work on a computer. I will have a laptop with me at all times. So is this the right height for a desk area? So I was kind of experimenting with that as well. Now, one of the things I have been struggling with over the past few weeks are some of the decisions I made on converting my van. And some of those are decisions that I chose to do, and some are things that I chose not to do. And I'm second thinking a lot of decisions in both of those two categories. I think when you're building a van or converting a van into a camper and all this van life stuff, the first thing that everybody does is go to YouTube and watch a million videos on how to convert a van. And we've all watched all those same videos, and we see how they do the flooring, how they do insulation, how they build their bed, how they do their electrical system, all those things over and over. We've all watched those videos. And if you're like me, you use those videos as a template on how to build your van. And that's what I did. And I started doing that without actually thinking, what do I need in my van? So I'll give you an example. I bought all the parts needed to build my own sink. I bought a container for fresh water. I have a container for my gray water. I built a USB sink tub. I've bought a bowl that I can drill a hole out, and I bought the assembly to turn that bowl into a sink. I have all the tubing required to build, to connect all those parts and turn that into a functional sink in this van. But what I never stopped to think was, do I need a sink in my van? Now, if you're going out and camping for weeks at a time, you probably need a sink. You need a way to get fresh water in. You need a way to dispose of water. But what I've been using this van for is day trips, sometimes weekend trips. And to be honest with you, I haven't needed a sink yet. Now, I'm not saying that I won't need a sink, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a sink in your van, but what I'm saying is I never stopped to think whether or not I needed a sink. I based all the ideas and all the things that I'm adding to my van solely on videos that I've watched from other people. Now, I'm not saying that watching videos isn't a good way to gather information. In a lot of ways, it's a great way, because those people, some of those people, have prior experience, and they have started van life and they've built their van from the ground up, and they have seen the need to add specific things to their van, and that's great. But a lot of people don't have that experience, and what a lot of people have done have simply built vans based on the videos of other people's vans that they have seen, and some of those vans are built on what they saw on YouTube from other people's vans. And so you kind of get into this cycle of adding things that may or may not be necessary to what you need in your van build. And again, a lot of van life is a big umbrella. People say van life, but there is a huge spectrum that the term van life covers. There are people, as I've talked about before, there are people that have $200,000 vans, fully converted. They bought them fully converted. They use them. They go on adventures. And I'm not speaking negatively of those people. That looks like a blast. I wish I had the money to do that, and I don't. But those people fall under the umbrella of van life. On the other end are people who have lost their homes. They've lost their house, and they have moved into a van as an alternative to becoming houseless. Those people are posting videos under hashtag van life. So my only point is that when you say van life, there is a huge spectrum. There are people that are doing van life full time. There are people that are doing van life part time. There are people like me that are weekend warriors at best. There are people that are living on the streets in the city in their vans every day. And there are people that are using their vans to go on short vacations. There are people that are using their vans to go on month-long vacations or even longer. People that are living in their van full-time and plan to forever. So my point in saying all that is that van life is not a one-size fits all solution. In fact, it's the opposite. Every van can be tailor-made to fit your specific needs. And that's something that I forgot along the way. So that's one half of some of my regrets, is that I have purchased items or started on projects that now, as I'm starting to use my van, I just don't think that I need. The inverse or flip side of that are the things that I didn't put in my van that I should have done from the very beginning. They're things that I decided for whatever reason that I wasn't going to need or didn't need, and in retrospect, I should have done. And I will give you the biggest example on that list, and that is not finishing out the insulation in this van. I kind of thought about insulation almost as a way that a child might think about washing dishes. A child might say, if you have a dirty dish, you can rinse it off in the sink and it looks clean, so you don't really need to wash it. You don't need to use soap. You don't need to put it in a dishwasher. You don't have to do all those things because it looks clean. And you can put it back in the sink. We don't need to wash our hands after going to the bathroom because our hands look clean. We don't see anything on our hands. But as adults, we know that's not true. We know that there are things that we can't see necessarily that we should have done. And so a lot of the flooring and the walls and the insulation and the ceiling that I saw in YouTube videos, I thought was overkill. I just didn't see the need for it. And I will tell you that on a recent trip, my wife and I, my mother-in-law, had to go to the hospital for a day, and I said, what better way to kill the day than to take the van and we would hang out in the parking lot in the van. I've got this sweet bed that works as a bench. I've got my table. We could do some work. The front seats rotate around. You could sit in the front seat. I've got a battery. I've got a radio. All the things. I've got the Max Air fan. All the things that we need to be comfortable. And after maybe 30 minutes of sitting in the van, we realized it was hot. It was really hot. I checked the temperature inside the van and it was about 95 degrees. But what was odd about that is the temperature outside was about 89 degrees. So it was hotter inside my van than outside. And as I was moving around the van, I touched the ceiling and it nearly burnt my hand. The ceiling was burning hot. And that's when I realized that basically I'm sitting in a big white oven. That the sun beating down, this whole thing is heating up and there is nothing inside here, not only to protect from that heat, but this is absorbing that heat and storing it in the van where we were. So I am not exaggerating when I say it was hotter inside the van than it was outside, and that's no good. And I can tell you this winter, the opposite will be true. It will be colder inside this van than it is outside, and that's no good. So fortunately, none of the things that I've done to the van so far are permanent. This bed is not bolted down. It's attached to the side with a bungee cord. I also have this table held to the wall with a couple of bungee cords. So it's good enough for driving around town or driving to the lake and back, but there's nothing stopping me from pulling all this stuff out. So what is the next step for me for the van? It's gotta be insulation. It's gotta be walls, flooring, and ceiling. It's not a fun part of the conversion, but it's a part that I have to do. I kind of skipped ahead to the fun parts. I worked on building the bed. I put the table in. I've gone on some camping adventures at the lake. I've slept in the van, but I need to go back to the basics. I need to do those basic things that I skipped from the very beginning, the foundations of the van. Without the foundations, all the stuff I'm adding onto it, I think are just wasted effort. So another hurdle I recently encountered were some mechanical issues with the van. Now the van has always had some slightly loose steering up front, but that problem got worse. The van began pulling really hard to one side. I searched online and everyone said it could be a problem with your brakes. If it pulls to one side when you hit the brakes, it could be your brakes. But it wasn't just when I hit the brakes, it was all the time. The other thing people said was, does it do it all the time? And it didn't do it all the time. So I ended up having to take the van into the shop. Now, on top of that, I was also getting check engine lights showing up, and the van just didn't seem to have as much power as I thought it should. So I took it into the mechanic. They told me that the front end problem had to do with shocks and suspension and tie rods, and the problem with the engine was a fuel problem with the vacuum, with the fuel sensor, and something else. I don't remember all the details, but here's the detail you need to know. It cost me $2,000. That is a chunk of change on a van that cost me $6,500. And so I really had to do some soul searching and decide, is this the van I want to stick with? Now, the reason I bought this van was because it had low miles. It has 130,000 miles and it's a 2007. So my thinking was the engine should be good for a long time. It was also I believe it was owned by the phone company. It was used for some sort of delivery like phone company or cable installation, and then it was owned by a local guy who was used it as a delivery van. So it has miles on it, but it's basically been used for delivering cargo back and forth. So I felt like it's in relatively good condition. My one regret is that it is not a tall van. I cannot stand up in the van all the way. When I walk around the van, I have to hunch all the way over. Would I like to start over with a taller van? Kind of, yeah. But this is what I have right now. And this is how much I was willing to invest in a van for a part-time van life project. I looked at the old Ford Connect XLTs that were shorter, that you could stand up in, but they were so significantly shorter. From the back of the door here to the front windows, I have a little over 10 feet. And in those, I think it's about 6 foot or slightly longer than the 6 foot. So it's a lot less space in the back. So, and my local, like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, those are selling for $12,000 to $13,000. This was about half that price. So I just wasn't willing to invest that for a first-time van. Now, if I do finish converting this van and outgrow it, then I might look at something else like that. And maybe I could sell this, you know, for a little bit more than what I paid once I've done the conversion, have all the, you know, equipment and upgrades and stuff like that, and then upgrade to another van. But for right now, this is what I have. This is what I'm working with. So I really had to make a decision. Do I want to get out of this van right now with the problems that it has developed, or do I want to upgrade to a new van? So I could cut my losses, or I could get this one fixed and keep this van. I really had to do a lot of thinking about that. And what I came to the realization was that if I paid $6,500 for this van and now have discovered it needs $2,000 worth of work, that kind of makes it a $4,500 van. So I really don't want to sell this at a $2,000 loss right now. But if I keep the van, I invest the $2,000 in it, that now I have $8,500 in the van. I've bought some wood, I've bought some other things, I've bought batteries. I put all that in here and maybe I sell it for $10,000, someday 11. I see older vans that have been converted for 11, 12,000. So if I could sell for that, then I could buy one of those other vans and start over and you know, build out a second van. So that's kind of the decision I went with. So that was my process. So I did end up spending the money. I had a problem with the back doors. I could not get the seal to fit where it's supposed to fit, and it was actually hanging off the doors. It was hanging out when I shut the doors. It was hanging out, and so when it would rain, water was coming in. If you remember from my Ninja stealth camping video, there was water coming in the van. Well, one of the things they did when I took the van in is they fixed that. They didn't charge me. They just, I guess they felt sorry for me. They saw it hanging out and they went ahead and fixed that. So, so that has been fixed, and there was a few other things that they did, but one of the funniest things was after they repaired the van, when I went to go pick up my van, they said it was out in the parking lot and I couldn't find it, and it was because they had washed and detailed it, and this van has never been that clean. I haven't washed it that good since I bought it. So when I walked out, I didn't notice that there was a bright, shiny white van, and I didn't realize that was my van, so that was kind of a nice plus too. So anyway, that was the decision that I went with. I got everything fixed. It runs great now. You know, it's always hard beforehand when you have a repair like that to pony up the money, but afterwards, once the money has been paid and you forget about it, all you think about is what you got for your money, and the van is running great, and it steers and drives great too. I was a little concerned about taking it on a long trip beforehand, and now I'm not. Now I have faith in how the van's running. So it was worth the money, and I'm going to continue building out this van. Now, the last thing I want to mention to you is that I just bought a refrigerator for the van. I'm going to be doing a video on the refrigerator next week. I am insanely jealous of all you people out there doing van life that are getting free e-bikes to review, free refrigerators to view, free Jackery batteries and Blue Eddy batteries. I can't get anything. I've even asked companies for things. I don't have the number of subscribers I need. I don't have the number of views I need. So I am basically on the bottom of the feeding pool at this point. Someday I hope to get there, but I'm not there yet. So I will sheepishly admit that one of the things I was hoping for was a company would send me a refrigerator to review that I could do a super fun, awesome review for and be able to keep the refrigerator. But that didn't happen. And now I'm at a point where I'm basically measuring out the cabinet that's going to go on this side, and to do that I need to know what kind of refrigerator I'm going to have, and so I went ahead and bought a refrigerator. So next week's video I will be unboxing, going through all the features on that new refrigerator, and hopefully we'll do a fun review of that and get out in the van a little bit as well. I'm looking forward to doing that. Just to recap, in case I didn't mention this, we have had 2 to 3 weeks in a row of over 100-degree Fahrenheit temperatures here in Oklahoma. I have huge empathy and huge sympathy for those of you who are living in your van full-time right now during the summer. I did not fully understand what that challenge felt like or looked like. I have a tiny taste of it now. I do own and will always own a brick and mortar home. I think I've mentioned before, this is a hobby for me. This is a side fun thing for me. So I will never live in my van. I will never live in my van full time. I will never quote unquote live in this van. This is for weekend trips, getaways, hiking, adventures, whatever I use it for. But I won't be living in this van, and to see the people on YouTube that I watch that are suffering in the summer heat, I now understand why those people drive north during the summer because it is absolutely brutal. And it has been so hot that not only have I not been using the van to stay in, I haven't been working on the van. So I'm hoping in the next week or so, the temperatures will drop down and I'll be able to start working again on the van. I have all the plywood cut to put in on the floor. I have the mat. You remember I had a video where I put the mat in here. I took the mat out because I had some water leaking issues with the back doors, but that has all been replaced. So yeah, that's the state of the van right now. As soon as the temperature cools down in the next week or two, I'm gonna hit things hard and heavy and have it ready for a lot of fall adventures and a lot of fall videos. I want to take you guys with me on some adventures. I want to show you some of the cool things in Oklahoma. I think when people think of Oklahoma, they think of lakes and forests and fishing, and there are all of those things, but there's a lot of other really cool things to see and do in Oklahoma, and I really want to share those with you as well. So thanks for hanging in here with me. Don't go anywhere. I will be here, and starting next week, hopefully we will start work again on the van and start having some fun adventures. So thanks for hanging around, and let's have some fun together.